The history of Chicano education in the Southwestern United States includes many aspects of oppression and inequality, which started with segregated schools in the early 1900s. Although these oppressive norms continued and encouraged discrimination against Mexican Americans, they were also a main reason that the Chicano community, mostly led by youths, felt the need to fight for more equality in education and in general life. As immigration increased by large numbers in the late 1800s and early 1900s, Mexicans became a significant part of the United States population and brought a higher percentage of Mexican children to American schools. With these new additions, many white parents and school board members began supporting Mexican-only schools, which segregated these children from white children in already established white schools. This separation further distanced Mexicans in the United States as the other, and added to the common view that they were inferior to white races. There are many arguments both for and against segregation. The ones in favor of segregation argued that Mexican children were less intelligent and needed slower lesson plans in order to learn the American way of life. To prove Mexican children's lower intelligence levels, certain scientists used low IQ scores as evidence of this, when in reality these tests were unfair and did not take into account the language barriers that existed for Mexican children. Set up for failure, they were then forced to be educated among discrimination and within environments that were inferior to those in white schools. These schools were often taught under teachers who did not have a lot of reason to care about the success of these students, and who generally encouraged their students to go down paths leading to difficult manual labor instead of jobs that allowed them to be in professional environments. This started at an early age at around elementary school, where Mexican children received bad educations that contributed to a high number of dropouts before even reaching high school. For example, one county only saw 51 out of 3,000 Mexican children transition to high school. These problems helped people form arguments against segregation. The unfairness of these schools and the treatment of the children were key in the Mendez versus Westminster case in 1946, when several parents fought to integrate schools so that white and Mexican children could receive equal educations. This court case was successful and ruled that segregation was occurring due to racism and not for any factual educational reason. Although this was a large step in creating equality in education, inequality still existed. Teachers were still leading Mexican students towards lives of manual labor and treating them with less respect than they gave to white students. These unfair acts existed until the 1960s, when young Chicanos became tired of the way that they were treated in schools. This was a major factor in the beginning of the Chicano movement, where Mexican identity was celebrated instead of shamed, and fitting in with white society became less important. Many activist groups came out of these movements and contributed to changes in education and society. For example, the student walkouts from classes put on display to the public the existence of police brutality as well as a showing of pride about Mexican heritage that had not been seen before. The movements led by the young Chicanos also influenced older generations who did not have the chance to speak out against the inequalities they faced in their lifetimes. Although education for Chicanos early on was extremely inferior to white education, this led to a social movement that allowed a sense of pride among Chicanos who fought to be given equal chances. Both before and after segregation, students faced many difficulties, but were able to make a change by coming together as a community and standing up for their rights both as a race and as citizens of the United States looking for equal opportunity.